Here's how I took my backyard from a patch of grass to a productive vegetable garden. Flipping the grass over prevents the roots from accessing water and nutrients needed for growth. I can't remember who said it first, but to plant a seed is to have a hope for tomorrow. In 2019, we started by creating the raised beds. We initially created the raised beds to handle fill dirt and rocks that we dug up from installing our deck. And then the plan was to add cedar trees to create a privacy hedge between us and our neighbors. Each of the raised beds are 3 by 8, and they're 30 inches tall at the highest point. And we have 3 of them lined up in a row. We used pressure-treated wood because it wasn't originally designed for vegetable production. But with the research I've done, modern pressure-treated wood is safe to grow in, and I'm comfortable growing in it. But when it comes time to replace them, I will likely use stone. Fast forward to 2020, and that is the first year we started using the raised beds or any of our yard for food production. I grew small quantities, fruits and veggies in those raised beds for a couple years before I really got bit with the gardening bug. Then in 2023 is when I decided I needed more growing space, and we put in the in-ground beds. I decided to do in-ground beds instead of creating more raised beds because, frankly, in-ground beds are just much more cost effective. To create the in-ground beds, I cut a perimeter in the grass in the sunniest part of my yard, which happened to be right in front of where the raised beds already were. And I knew I wanted some arch trellises covering a path to grow some vining plants. The bed directly in front of the raised beds is 3 feet wide by 15 feet deep, and the larger bed on the other side is 6 feet wide by 15 feet deep. Once the shape was set, I cut out 1-foot chunks of grass and flipped it over so that the roots were facing upwards to kill the grass. I continued 1 square foot at a time until the whole garden bed was done. Flipping the grass over prevents the roots from accessing water and nutrients needed for growth, suffocating the grass and hindering its ability to regrow. While this was labor intensive, it was very cost effective. I didn't need to rent a tiller. Chunks of grass are too heavy to get rid of at our curbside pickup. Plus, the grass breaking down in place helped to add a little bit of organic matter to the soil. We created 2 18-inch wide trellises that go from one in-ground bed to the other. We place one in the front of the garden and one near the back of the garden. Then we added a good layer of compost, and I let the garden rest for a couple weeks before planting. We also started creating what I like to call our berry bed. Anybody who's been around kids knows that they love berries. I wanted a part of our garden to focus on berry production in order to help put a real dent in our grocery bill. So once our fence was built, I used the same grass flipping technique to make in-ground beds in front of our fence. The bed along the fence is about 24 feet wide and 5 feet deep. Once our snow finally melts, I will bring you outside into the garden with me, and I will show you all our growing areas before we get to planting to familiarize everybody with the spaces I'm talking about. The newest addition to the backyard garden was a L-shaped bed designed for vertical growing. It was designed with trellises that run along the whole back side of the garden beds. It is 8 feet long by 6 feet deep, with the beds being about 3 feet wide. The bed is slightly raised for easier mounting of the trellises. Now, why do I garden? I started gardening as an adult to help feed my family. 5 years ago, I had just had my first baby, and my mom had just left after helping us settle into newborn life. And it was the first time I couldn't go and pick up my groceries. And that's why you'll see me weighing and planning my garden the way that I do. I want to know how much I need to grow in order to make a dent in what we get from the grocery store. And I don't have a very large space to do it. Our lot is 40 feet by 90 feet, and our house is included in that. That's why you'll see me doing lots of interplanting and succession planting and seeing how I can sneak more food into our small space. Gardening also gives me hope. I can't remember who said it first, but to plant a seed is to have a hope for tomorrow. With 2 beautiful babies now, I have to have hope for tomorrow. Gardening also gets me out in the sun and helps me learn new skills, from growing a new crop to learning how to use and preserve things in ways my family enjoys using them. I wanted to share with you why I garden, because I know a lot of people who are coming across my channel are doing so because they are scared and they are worried. And I hope that you find inspiration and peace here. I hope that you follow along to see how productive a small space can be.